Hi everybody, welcome back to Cat Every Day. It is Arts and Crafts Friday where I share some sort of arts and crafts with you. Okay, so now I'm not going to show you from start to finish like I normally do because I don't have part of that available, and I'll explain. I have to go back in time for just a second. When my husband and I were first married, we were married 3 years before our eldest came along, and I was pregnant with him, and I was trying to think of a way that I could make some extra money on the side somehow. I had this newborn baby, and I was taking care of him, and my husband was in the military. It was a different time. This is like early 90s. Now, I picked up a library book, and I was looking through all the craft books at the library. I thought, what can I do? What can I do? And in one of these books, I wish I had maybe found another book just like that, just because it was such a pivotal point in my life to have found such an idea. But it was called something like Dough Crafts or something. And so it was kind of a clunky, 70s book. And it was about making, like salt dough ornaments and, big funny looking salt dough plates and things like that, and mementos and stuff. And I thought, well, that's a neat idea. I mean, I don't know how well that would go off to make these kinds of clunky things, but maybe there's something that I could, I was looking at the smaller ornaments, and I thought maybe I could kind of be inspired by this idea and make it my own. And of course they had their own version of, their recipe for salt dough and how you could, I think everybody's made salt dough ornaments when they were in first grade or kindergarten. Now I wanted to take something along those lines, but make something a little more sophisticated. And so what I did was I had kind of come up with this recipe of making this dough mix that I can use for jewelry. And so what I did is very, very simple, and I wish I had it here with me. I could just show you the steps, but I can tell you easy enough. I'll take a loaf of bread, right? And it's not anything fancy, nothing with any grain in it. You want it as cheap white bread dough as you could find. For this, Wonder is too fancy. You want the cheapest white sliced bread you can find. And I slice off all of the crusts, right? And get rid of all the brown parts of the crust that's a little too hard. We don't need that stuff. And then so you're just left with the little squares inside of white, fluffy bread. And so what I do is lay them out on a cookie sheet and just leave them out for a few days and let them dry out completely so that they're really, really just crumbly, right? And then you take them, I guess you could put them in the, like in a Vitamix, a blender or something, or a food processor. And then, and you just basically crush them up. So you're just going to kind of like whirl it up and crush it up. And you could, before you dry them out, you could tear the bread up, and if that helps. But sometimes I've found that when you tear it up first before you dry it, you risk compressing parts of the bread, and then when it dries you get these little hard nodules that you had pressed together. So it's best to, I think, just let it dry all at once. After I've got all the crumbs, really, really super small and almost powdery from the blender, I'll put them in a bowl. And what you're going to add is, it almost looks like a flour, but trust me, it's going to be a little harder. It's not going to act like a flour mix. It's going to be different. You take white Elmer's glue, and you put enough in there to kind of like hold it together like a real, kind of like a sticky dough ball. And if you have to add a little bit of water, you can do that. But you want, if you've ever made just like bread dough, and it kind of just, you want to just put enough in there so that it forms a little dough ball, but it's not too sticky to hold, right? And if I have to at this point, I could put in a little bit of flour just to clean it up if it's just too sticky. But you don't want to really make this out of flour, even though bread is made from flour. For some reason, it works different when I make it out of the dry bread. So, okay, so then I take that little dough ball and I'll put it in a plastic bag, and that'll keep it nice and soft. And I keep it in the fridge so that I take out bits and pieces of it while I work with it. And the reason why I put it in the fridge is so that it doesn't mold, because if you leave it outside, since it is made out of bread, it will mold actually. So now after it's dry and you use it for jewelry, it never molds. You never have that problem. But if the dough is wet, it can mold. Okay, so I take out bits and pieces of it and I use that dough to form this jewelry. And I'll show you the bits of jewelry and the pieces from, I'll show you how I've formed it and stuff. So back then, what happened was I would make these big clunky earrings because it was the 90s and everything was big and clunky then. And we had gone into the legal office on base to do some business. And there was a woman who was like the legal aid. I don't know what her title was, but she worked there. Maybe she was a notary public. But she said she was kind of captured by my earrings, and she said she really loved them and that she did a lot of craft shows up in Utah, and because at the time we were in Las Vegas. And she said, I'm going to go up to Utah and I can take some of your earrings up there and see how they sell, and if you want, and this is the date, so you can kind of work toward that date. And just give those to me, put them in your boxes or hangers or whatever it is, and then I'll display them because I'm already going up to sell some other things, and I can just sell those while I'm there. And I thought that was really nice of her. Now, of course, I was going to give her a portion per each box that she sold, per each set of earrings that she sold, because, she's going through all of this trouble for me. I thought that was really nice. And so I started working on them, and I made a lot of little earrings, and I'll show you what they look like in just a second. But they sold really, really well. And of course, I had to come up with cards and the display stuff, and this kind of thing. So it was kind of like this whole project, but they really sold very, very well when she went up there. In fact, she came back. I think there were a few other times where she would just tell me whenever she was going back up, and then I'd have more ready for her, and she would take them, she'd sell them, give me what was left, and, and then I'd make a little money on the side. So it was really cool. But now I just make them for gifts, and I would like to sell them in maybe my own craft booth or something now. But the thing is that, homeschooling and dealing with the boys, there's 3, that are still in school and all. I just don't have the time. And if you've ever participated in a craft show, I know Valerie Reese, she has a channel that I love to watch, and she participates in craft shows. She's going to do a craft show if she hasn't done it already. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. And it is a lot of work. I think she's going to be the first person to tell you it is a lot of work to prepare for a craft show. So there's no possible way I think I could commit to doing something that big on that big a scale with everything I've already got on my plate. But I think maybe someday I will, probably go back. But anyway, so I'll show you what some of those earrings look like now that you've listened to the story behind it. And this is the Arts and Crafts Friday. Thanks for tuning in. All right, this is a little messy, I know. I got to clean it up. But I keep a lot of little pieces for earrings. I've got the dangly ones. I've got the posts. I always keep lots of little things that I might be able to use in the jewelry. Little, these are little opal drops. Those are a little big, but I remember buying these little cameos, and I would surround those with flowers, and those are really cute. All right, so I keep all kinds of little containers. This is a party dip. I don't even remember this container. I must have had this for 20 years. I don't know, and I've used this clam dip, ranch dip, French, and avocado. I don't even know where to get that stuff now. But anyway, I keep a lot of pieces. These are kind of old. So most of the ones that I have in here right now are the little roses that I fashion. And I just form them little by little. I'll sit there maybe watching a movie or something, and I just take bits of the dough and I make the little, mostly roses. There are different types of flowers. I've made hibiscus. I've made, the poinsettias, things like that. But roses seem to be the big deal. And they just look really pretty. And then here I have the little rose buds. So I would just take like a flat little round piece and then just kind of roll it into these little buds here. And I fashion those and stick those right next to the roses. These leaves are pretty easy. I'll use these for the poinsettias. I'll make these little incision marks with an X-Acto knife. And so those are really cute. And then these leaves, there's not a lot in here. I have some in other places. But these ones take a long time. And I don't know if you could see or not. Usually you can't really tell unless they're painted. But they have, the leaf mark in the center and the striations on each side. And these take a long time. But it's really important to have these with so much detail because the watercolors, when I use watercolors to paint them, the watercolors actually just get dispersed in each one of the grooves. And so the watercolors stuck in the grooves get darker, and then the one that's over, not a groove, is lighter. It's just a really nice, pretty effect. I use a lot of little crystals. I will buy little crystals to embellish the earrings with. And so a lot of times it's easier to just use a tool like this. It's kind of sticky on the end, and it's kind of like for diamond painting, I guess, where you pick up the crystal and you move it. This side you can pick up some jewels and crystals on this side, kind of scoop them up. I don't really use that, but I will use these to kind of like place them, that and some tweezers where I want them on the earrings. I will show you what they look like close up, if it'll focus. This is one of them. Now I asked some of my sisters what their favorite colors were, and I've been working on these ever since. They're just about to be sealed, but one of my sisters loves black and red. So I have black and red earrings. You could see they're made with the buds, different types of leaves, and the roses. And so I'll make two of these types of earrings, one for one side, and I'll do the complete opposite arrangement for the other side. That way they look balanced, and all of my backings are all hypoallergenic. All right, these are, there's one of the earrings to a pair that's kind of like a grayish, a little bit of lavender and turquoise together. And a lot of times I've made earrings to just go with an outfit. So I will take the colors of the outfit and just kind of like throw the earrings together. Well, not throw them together. They take a while to make, but make it just for that outfit. And I like this one. I think this is a pretty mix of color. And then you have black and gray. One of my sisters likes black and gray. And again, you've got some Swarovski crystals on here. Now what I'm going to start doing, you can see the crystals really shining, but once I put the resin over, sometimes it kills that beautiful brilliance, and I really don't want that to happen. So I'm going to start putting them on last so that we don't risk losing any brilliance of the crystals. All right, this one I really like. This is a blue and green one. I think I may have made this one for myself because I liked those colors. And I've got a little bit of a lavender there with that rose on the side. I've got a little pearl and then some Swarovski crystals. And these will just be really eye-catching with your hair up. Just really look really cute. So I love these. Here's another little one. This one's really tiny and petite. You could still see I've got to clean up some of the glue strands on there before I seal it. And this one, these are so petite and so cute. Now these are post earrings, but I can make them on any kind, even the drop earrings. And these ones, this size, I sold a whole lot of in Utah at one time. They seem to go really well at craft shows out there in Utah. And these are some simple pomegranates with some Swarovski crystals in the middle. And these are really pretty. Sometimes I'll put the grain on the outside, but not often, because I found when I put the grain on the outside, it kind of limits them to Christmas. And when I leave the green off, you can kind of wear them with almost anything. And they're not just, you know, really Christmassy. So I like these too. Okay, so this is the gem tack I was talking about. I'm hoping that when I use this to attach my gems on there, I won't get those little strings that I get from the hot glue gun. And the hot glue gun is only meant to hold them until I can get the sealer. And this is what I use to seal them. So what happens is, this is a 2-part resin, and I get this at Hobby Lobby. So you just use one part to one part, you mix it in here. You have to be really careful, because this stuff will not come off of anything, and it could burn your skin if it's still curing. So you have to be really careful. I would also use it in a well-ventilated area. But what it does is I dip the flower portions in this resin, and it puts a protective glaze over and keeps them together. They will never come apart. If I drop them, they'll probably bounce, but it just keeps them really nice, like forever. And it just seals them and makes them look kind of like glass. So it doesn't touch the skin on the ear, because I keep it on the outside, but I've never had a complaint about anybody having any sort of allergic reaction to any of my jewelry or my earrings. So I used to use one called Envirotex, and I couldn't find it anymore. This is the only one that I can find now. Okay, so thanks for joining me for another Arts and Crafts Friday. I will see you guys in the next video.